Right. Good morning, Adrienne. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today, Nigel?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. Hey, I want to just thank you for joining me today. Taking time out of your busy schedule to give us some good insight concerning health and wellness.
I'm excited. Thank you.
So we'll just dive in here a little bit. Let me just first off start out by asking you, how long have you been in your field currently as a registered dietitian?
I've been a registered dietitian for almost 10 years now. So
Okay.
it's been a while. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure, these questions you'll be able to answer pretty thoroughly.
I'd like to think so.
All right. So, when it comes to fitness, when you're giving, clients advice and things of that nature, a lot of people struggle when it comes to emotional eating. And that's just like a large topic I just wanted to kind of touch base with you about. So, what advice would you give someone who struggles with emotional eating? They're on a good pace and then they hit a brick wall and, they run into this.
It's mainly exploring the why behind it. So a lot of my clients eat for reasons other than just fueling their bodies. There are only a couple that are like, food is fuel. That's all I need. I keep going. But most of us eat because we are bored, because we're procrastinating and we know we should be working on a project, but we're like, oh, let me just eat first.
Yeah.
Sometimes stress. Most of the time I see the stress is playing out in terms of certain foods that they eat, but sometimes stress can be so bad that people won't eat. Again, that's a little bit less of the problem. People reward themselves. So they're like, oh, I had a meeting with my boss and it didn't go very well, but I made it through the day. I'm going to eat some Haagen-Dazs now. A lot of people eat for comfort too. And there are certain foods that generally are comfort foods. So again, if there's a bad day or they're just feeling kind of down, food is easy to turn to rather than some of the lifestyle changes that could be done instead, or self-care activity.
Okay.
So in general, I like to explore with people what the foods are that they crave in certain situations. So if it's comfort, and for one person, it might be more like pastries, we explore, okay, well, where do you think this came from? And what do you think you might want to try to do instead of the pastry? Now, the self-care activities can take a while to put into play. It's not all the time that it's going to be easy to take a bath instead of opening the freezer door and grabbing Haagen-Dazs. But the more that they start becoming aware of what's driving that, and they start acknowledging like, okay, I did have a bad day. You know what? I'm still going to eat the Haagen-Dazs. But maybe the next time, or the time after that, or the time after that, they're like, all right, you know what? Maybe I don't need the Haagen-Dazs. I know I'm stressed out. Maybe I'll just go take a walk. Maybe I will listen to some music. Maybe I will do one of my other self-care activities. That can be really helpful for people who are doing more emotional eating too. I always also suggest that people keep a food diary. And this is not for calories. This is more, I had this food, I felt this way, or I was feeling this way, I ate this food. It works both ways there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really good. Some self-discovery and
Really?
chain of events.
Mm-hmm. It's so important. Most of us don't know ourselves. And some of my clients have been like in their 60s or 70s. And they're like, oh, you know what? I just realized that I'm doing this when I feel this way.
Uh-huh.
So it
Yeah.
takes a while.
So for someone who, they go on an unhealthy binge, mentally it throws them into like a spiral. They're like, oh man, like they start beating themselves up. So, for someone who, they go on a binge, what motivational advice you give to them to say, hey, you got to keep going?
Well, first of all, I have a couple of different ideas around that. My philosophy is more like 80-20-90-10 guidelines for eating. So what that means for me is that 80 or 90% of the time I'm eating good, home-cooked, organic, good for me foods. 10% of the time or 20% of the time, if there is a friend's birthday party and I decide that I want to eat the cheesecake, I'd rather eat that without guilt, fear, or shame. So it allows perfectionism not to take over, to where we make a mistake and then we're like, well, I messed up the whole weekend. I guess I'll just start again on Monday. But in the meantime, do all these other things that are not helping our health. Another case I had with one of my clients, he was a football player And he would do so well and like restrict himself Monday through Friday, but he would mentally plan his binge. She's like, Saturday, I'm going to go to Tim Hortons, and then I'm going to get this thing, and I'm going to go to Wendy's after that, and I'm going to grab this thing and a Blizzard. And I was like, why don't we just work in treats throughout the week so that you don't feel so deprived? Because the whole point is not to go on a binge. If you can prevent the binge by having little treats, that can help you stay motivated and not feel like you've thrown everything out the window.
Yeah, I like that approach. I really do. So when it comes to like, alternatives for someone who has a sweet tooth, such as myself, love cookies, what alternatives would you offer? Would you tell them to, look up a cookbook and learn how to make your own pastries, or what would you, recommend?
Well, I always like to meet my clients where they are. And what that means is that if somebody is eating McDonald's 3 times a day, that I'm going to nudge them towards better health. And then there are those clients who are eating steel-cut oats and goji berries every morning, and they can still be nudged towards better health. But if you meet people where they are, you can address and try to nudge them towards a better alternative. So let's just take somebody, let's say eating a Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I might suggest a smaller size of Blizzard, or one that has the least amount of sugar. If people like ice cream, I love ice cream, but I find like the organic, vegan, like coconut milk ones, so I can still have my ice cream without feeling deprived. The other option too, and this is generally a rule I have for myself that I share with my clients in case they want to try it too, is if you know that you are somewhat inherently lazy, as I am with cooking. I love food, but I do not want to be in the kitchen for 3 hours a day. When it comes to the treats, well, what I tell myself is if you want to make the brownies, and in this case, it'll be like black bean brownies because I'm trying to make them healthy. They're still delicious, but healthy. What I know I'm going to have to do is spend 45 minutes in the kitchen putting stuff together. Then I'm going to have to clean up. I'm going to have to wait for that amount of time. Sometimes I'm willing to do that because I really want the brownies, and other times I'm like, it's not worth it. I'm not doing it today. Yes. So yeah, there's that element of you can make your own, and sometimes you're like, nah, maybe not today. And other times you will follow through, but it's still healthier.
Yeah, no, I like that. So, commonly, people are, they're into their careers. They have a really hectic schedule, whether it's the kids, whether it's the job, whatever's pulling them in different directions. And they're always on the go. And this is something that, comes up all the time when I'm talking to people on a regular basis. They're like, I don't have time to really prep my meals. What type of advice, or we're meeting people where they are, what would you say to those type of people that, don't have the confidence in really planning out their day and eating on a schedule?
Well, and some people don't like cooking either, whereas others actually enjoy it. So let's say that they're going out to run through McDonald's after the kids' soccer game. Mm-hmm. There are healthier choices you can make at McDonald's, or you can go to Wendy's and maybe get a baked potato and some grilled chicken. I think they have salads, maybe broccoli. I don't know. But those would be some healthier options. The crock pot and the blender are 2 of the best friends you can have in your kitchen, in my opinion, especially as the winter comes, which is right around the corner. The crock pot is basically your household servant. You throw a bunch of food in there, you go do your work, you come home, and then you don't have to think about, oh, what should I pick up from the grocery on the way home? Or, oh man, now I have to stand and chop a bunch of stuff and the kids need their homework done. It's just done for you. It's amazing. I love meal prepping. And in fact, I've seen even some good YouTube videos about how people can prep breakfast, lunch, and dinner for an entire week in about an hour, hour and a half. I've done the same thing when I'm really, really organized. So it's possible, but not everybody wants to do it. Other clients will hire a personal chef who can meet their gluten-free, anti-inflammatory, whatever diet needs that they have. It is a little bit more expensive, but if you have the disposable income and want to spend the money that way, you can still eat healthily without being in the kitchen all the time.
Okay. Just freeze it if you need to for a later time.
Yes, there are a lot of ideas around that. Sometimes people will even create like smoothies, and they'll just portion them out and throw them into the smoothie the day of. Or the same thing with the crock pot meals. They'll put the whole meal into a bag, throw it in the freezer, and then all they need to do the night before is put it in the crock pot. Yeah,
problem I run into is, I'll meal prep for a few days, and, I hate eating that 3-day meal where it doesn't taste the same. But, you can always freeze it. I was going through a little issue with bananas. I eat a banana normally every day. I was just like, these bananas are going bad. I was just throw them in the freezer, blend
Oh
them
yeah.
at a time, you know?
Did you make ice cream out of them, or nice cream as they call it?
No, I didn't.
Okay,
I throw them in my shakes,
yeah, see, that
protein
works too.
shakes. Yeah.
And like you mentioned, if you're gonna have a fresh fruit every day, why not try something different? You could do blueberries one day, apple the next day. Whether you're putting that with your oatmeal or just eating it on its own, at least you have something to look forward to on Wednesday rather than, okay, I know I'm having another banana. Great. Food should be exciting and it should be delicious. And I really want people to be able to incorporate it in a way that works for them.
Yeah, you know, and when things are in liquid form, would you recommend, you know, maybe doing like a shake or like juicing to, you know, throw in a bottle and have it as a meal supplement? Would you ever recommend something like that?
I do. I love smoothies. I have a juicer too, but I don't use it as often because it takes another 15 or 20 minutes to clean that thing
Yeah,
out.
hate it.
And I don't really want to do that first thing in the morning. So most of the time I'll just use a really good quality, high powered blender. And then you can make sure that you have your good carbohydrates in there, your complex carbohydrates, your vegetables. I usually throw in some spinach or kale.
Uh-huh.
And then you might want to have a good fat. Sometimes that's coconut milk for me. Nut butters like almond butter works really well. I'll throw in chia seeds or hemp seeds. And then I usually also have another protein source, but that, like, a lot of those kind of overlap. So the protein in this case would be like the nut butter, not necessarily the coconut cream. That would be the healthy fat. And then some people like to throw in a little bit of oats just for that extra bit of complex carbohydrates before they go do a workout. So you
Uh-huh.
can basically put all of the components of a meal into your smoothie. But if you're just going to pick up a smoothie at one of these little smoothie shops, most of the time it's going to be a bunch of fruit, some juice, which has even more sugar in it,
Yeah.
and then that's what you're starting your day with. Not necessarily the best option.
You'll probably hit a crash somewhere in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm always curious, when you sit down with your clients, like when it comes to labels and things like that, do you ever like educate your clients on like how to read labels or, you know, paying attention to serving sizes and, you know, breaking it down to them? Because it's very easy as a consumer to kind of overlook it. And you look at a label and it says this per, you know, serving, this amount of calories, this amount of sugars and fats, but it says 3 times. The 3 times is not what most people are looking at, and they're getting
Right.
3 times that amount to consume the whole product. So you ever kind of, you know, educate people that, you know, on that?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, portion sizes are generally out of control in our country. And if you were raised as part of the clean plate club, as I like to call it, where your parents were like, oh, you definitely have to eat everything in order to get your dessert or to leave the table, whatever the case is. A lot of times we are just trained that way. So even when we go out to eat, there's a large portion that we're being served and we're eating all of it.
Yeah.
But that, of course, translates into us coming home and opening up a bag of pretzels, sitting in front of the TV and mindlessly eating, as you said, 3 to 4 times the amount. You turn it around and you're like, 16 pretzels is a serving.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, portion sizes are key. Another thing that's on the food label that I really enjoy now is, since I believe it was July that this went into effect, they have to put added sugars. So, you know, the fruit sugars that we might encounter, not so bad. It's more, what did the manufacturers add? And now they're being required to say, out of the 12 grams of sugar that's in this product, 6 of them are from added sugars. The more important part, though, too, is the ingredients list right underneath the food label. That's going to tell you what your food is made out of. So if it's wheat followed by sugar, that's pretty easy of a decision in my book, where it's like, okay, maybe not that choice.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll choose something else. So I think that part is really key too. Plus, there's a bunch of chemicals and food additives. And as Michael Pollan says, if your great grandmother couldn't pronounce it or doesn't know if you don't know what it is, it's probably better for you not to put it in your body.
Right.
Good guideline there.
It's probably you know, some type of banned substance somewhere else in the world.
Probably, yeah. Where here it's like generally recognized as safe. So if you're sticking with whole foods, which not the whole food store, but whole unprocessed foods, you're avoiding that. You pick up kale. There's no extra additives on that. You know, you go pick up some quinoa from the bulk bin of a grocery store. You don't have to worry about additives with that generally either. So you can avoid a lot of the detective work that is normally needing to be done when you just stick with the whole foods.
Yeah. So when it comes to just killers, like not only food killers, but just, you know, it could be something specific inside of a food that you eat or buy. What is some top things that stick out on your mind and says, hey, if you see this on a label, or if this is in this product, try to stay away from it as much as possible, because it's going to, you know, slow your progress down. Is there anything that kind of sticks out in your mind?
Well, we shouldn't be, hopefully, you know, seeing any trans fats in our foods. So if it says partially hydrogenated oil of like soybean oil, palm oil, whatever, that's a big red flag. It's
Okay.
taken over 100 years for people to realize that maybe we shouldn't be eating trans fats. So hopefully we're at that point now where people have gotten rid of that. High fructose corn syrup, I would definitely get rid of. Now, there are over 50 different names for added sugars, and food companies are pretty smart. So they know that, for example, if you're going down the grocery aisle or the cereal aisle in the grocery store, and let's say the mom or dad picks up a box of cereal, they look at the ingredients and it says wheat followed by sugar. They're more likely to put that back on the shelf. However, if food companies use different forms of sugar, diacetase esters, evaporated cane juice, they'll make all sorts of things sound even healthy. It's harder to see. So you have to read basically the whole ingredients and say, okay, that's a sugar, that's a sugar, that's the sugar. But they've used different words so they can go lower on the list. It's very tricky. Another thing I'm really careful of is additives. So like the food colorings, FD&C, blue number 40, that type of stuff. Not good for human health.
Yeah. So is it actually in order, like according to like the percentage of that in the product? Does it go in order?
It's the amount of weight product. Yeah.
So, okay. I just wanted to make sure, because, you know, you like the first few things that's, you know, that you actually read, you're like, okay, this is what contains the most. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it's by weight. So like I said, they're pretty tricky because they'll just use different forms of sugar, and that way it can go lower on the list. And most people aren't reading the list all the way down. So
Yeah.
it's important.
No,
Food manufacturers are always a few steps ahead of the rest of the population. So it's really important to be your own health detective, or to get somebody to be a health detective with you and say, hey, guess what? This yogurt that you've been eating has 37 grams of sugar in it. Let's make a better choice here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love yogurt. I love yogurt. What's the best form of yogurt? Is it Greek yogurt?
Well, I would say it's the one that has the least amount of sugar, which tends to be yogurt. But if you've seen some of the Flips cups, that's when they the granola and everything else.
Yeah.
It can be a lot of sugar to start your day off with, or to have as a snack. So I would do plain yogurt and then add your own sweetener. So if you want to, you know, put a little bit of honey in there, and then put some blueberries, that's much healthier than buying a blueberry flavored one, because the food manufacturers generally just add more sugar to that because they think you want it sweeter. They do the same thing with the vanilla yogurts too. Between plain and vanilla yogurt, they put almost double the. You think it's just vanilla extract. It is not. There's vanilla extract and sugar in there.
Wow. It's not even necessary. It's not even necessary. No.
I agree with you.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Adrienne. Again, man, very insightful. Just, I mean, I'm a student right now. So,
hey, they always say you can't outrun a bad diet, right?
Right. So let us know how we can get in contact with you.
Well, you can visit my website, which is onebitewellness.com. So that's ONEBITEWELLNESS.com. And I have a bunch of nutrition, lifestyle, and whole foods plant-based recipes, which are, of course, low in sugar and use natural sugars instead. You can also contact me via phone at 614-596-7795. I'm here to help.
All right. Well, thank you again, Adrienne. And we'll talk soon. We'll have a part 2 sometime in the future for everyone.
Okay. I'm excited. All right. I'll look forward to it. Have a wonderful day.
All right. You too.